UFC Vegas, Fight Club TV. I am Kyle, your host. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the Bet Review Show. Glad to have you with us. We're going to be talking about UFC 225, Yoel Romero versus Robert Whittaker. We're going to get into the two plays that we had, as well as our overall feeling on the card. Definitely want to get into a little bit on the main event and the co-main event and the thoughts there, and definitely want to hear what you guys, how you guys did. We did have some great conversation in the Let's Chat video in the comment section. So this, of course, I want to a little bit more on how you guys did the outcome, your bets won, your bets lost, and if anyone was tailing the 1.5 on the best bet play that we will get into in a moment, and overall how everybody did. So I am back. I was actually away the last couple of days. Obviously, we do our best bet the day after the event. Like I said, I was away on business, so I am now back here in the studio in my house. And let's just get into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the best bet play. The best bet play was over 1.5 rounds on the Alistair Overeem versus Curtis Blaydes fight. And this one was a 3-unit play that we had. It was a minus 145. And this fight was one, obviously, I was looking forward to the entire night, and really a great night of fights. I mean, really from the prelims all the way up, and we will get into some of those other fights, but really a great night of fights. And as it's getting closer and closer, fights, I'm really hoping it's going to go the way that I was picturing it would go. And in our prediction show, we did talk about, how we thought it would be a contrast of styles and how it's going to be difficult for Overeem to possibly look for the striking inside if he's going to have to worry about the wrestling. And in that fight, the first 3 minutes of that fight could not have gone any better. I was with a bunch of people at my house. They all knew what I was betting there, of course, and they're all like, what's happening here? Like, it was almost confusing why. There was really no striking. There was just really nothing going on in those first 3 minutes. And it was, again, we talked about, we knew that Overeem would be possibly a little more timid after dealing with such a blow from Ngannou, and knowing that this is a pretty critical fight for him in his career. It's a pretty critical fight. And knowing the fact that Blaydes is a tough wrestler, that's where he's going to be. He's going to excel in this fight. He's going to be able to work the takedowns, and it's going to be tough for them to maneuver. They're not going to stand and trade. They're not going to be doing that, and it went to the next level where they really were. It really was very timid. Very good first round. Not much happened there. Going into that second round, again, with some exchanges, nothing to worry about. And as Blaydes was able to work Overeem to the ground a couple times, that was just killing the clock. Literally, I think I was just staring at the clock more than the fight, to be honest with you. But close to, it was maybe a minute and a half into that second round, and Overeem lands that tremendous knee, which... What a chin Blaydes has. They had talked about that. In some other interviews, they're saying he's got a great chin. He's got a great chin, and that was a shot that easily could have leveled many fighters. But he was able to get inside, work him, take him to the ground. It really was not a very stressful bet as being a best bet, a 3-unit play, which is, again, one of my higher plays that I've done overall on my best bet play. So it was nice to get it. We're able to cash in there on the 3 units. So what that's going to do, it's going to put us now 19 wins, 8 losses for the year. We are plus 16.37 units for the year. So again, we are right at that 70% winner on the best bet play. The best bet play, though, as well as I would say the highest of this year that I've ever had on the odds is probably around minus 250, minus 230 is probably my highest that I've gone. I really don't go very high on these. These are really going to be those great value plays, not going to be something you're going to see at minus 400, minus 500, in those range where you have to lay a lot to win a little. We're looking for those spots where we can lay down money where we think the line is a little bit off, and try to expose those lines. So it was great to see that come in. Really happy that was able to work itself out. Kind of took the pressure off of the rest of the night after that one cashed in. But again, it was a great way to see how that fight progressed, and also on the result of the fight. Blaydes putting away Overeem was pretty tremendous, and in brutal fashion. That was something that a lot of people had said, Blaydes can't finish, he can't finish. And I'm one of them that was saying, he's not a finisher. He's not a finisher. And even when he had him in the ground earlier in the fight, Overeem could handle himself on the ground, but, you know, he really wasn't causing that much damage, Blaydes. He was, you know, able to wrestle him, you know, kind of pepper him up a little bit, hit him with some shots, but when he starts dropping those elbows, I mean, I think, honestly, there was about 4 extra elbows there that shouldn't have, the fight should have been stopped, but, I mean, what a way for him to finish. Give him a lot of respect for that. Interested to see where he's going to go, because that was an enormous victory for Blaydes. And if he can really start to put together his stand-up game, he's going to be a very scary fighter within that division. So we'll see what happens there. But that was the win. So we now are, again, it's 19 wins, 8 losses, plus 16.37 units for the year. So that's the best bet play, able to cash in there. The other play that we had was Tai Tuivasa versus Andre Arlovski, and this one here, you know, a lot of people, even when we were when I first talked about this fight, a lot of people say, if you're going to take Tai Tuivasa, you should take him winning by knockout. You should take him winning by knockout. And that was what a lot of people kind of felt, that was the way that this fight would go. And I'm not one, don't really bet how the outcome will be. I'm not really one to do that. I know a lot of people do, and again, a lot of people have different ways that they place their money. But for me, if I like a fighter, I'm willing to pay a little extra juice on it to get the fighter, to get him as, if he wins, I win. And that's the way I always look at it, is that, yes, of course, knockout, in this kind of fight sounds like it's very highly likely. And the fact that these two guys getting to the decision was very unlikely. And a knockout from one of them was very likely. So that, to me, I want the fighter. If I've handicapped the fight and I feel this guy's going to win, I'm not willing to get out of that and just help myself a little bit, where, yes, you're going to make more money if it is a knockout, but I want to cover all angles. I want to cover all angles. So if I like a guy, I bet him. And that fight, to me, I did not see, because it was 49-46, 48-47, and 48-47. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. That was Dos Anjos. I'm sorry. It was 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. So it was very close. It was definitely a very close fight, and that's exactly kind of how I had it, a 2-1 going to the judges at that point. But I thought he did well. I'm interested to see where Tuivasa goes. He's now 10-0, but I like his skill set. I think that he's very agile for a big guy who's 265, and he's doing jumping knees, and he's doing all. I mean, I think if he can really hone his skills even more, he's got the power. Now we're seeing at least that he somewhat has got the cardio to get through a 3-round fight. He was knocking guys out in the first round. That was a big thing against him, that people were saying, can he even make it through 3 rounds because of just the way he looks? He doesn't have much muscle on him, but he is a big, strong guy. So great to get that victory as well. We had 1 unit on Tai Tuivasa, able to get that victory. So with that all combined, I mean, getting the straight bets on both of my best bet and Tai Tuivasa, and then I was able to parlay them. So hit everything. Really a great night. Another 2-0 night for myself. It was really a good spot to make some money before we have a little bit of a lull, because we're next week we've got a card that's going to be on Fight Pass, and then July 7th is going to be UFC 226, and that's going to be the big card with Stipe and DC, which of course we will get into when it gets a little bit closer. Next week we will have, of course, Wednesday or Thursday, the bet review show. The prediction show. Then Friday we'll do the Let's Chat video, and then on Sunday we will do the bet review. So also getting into the main event. What a fight. I mean, if that's not a fight of the year contender, I don't know what is. I thought it was really a tremendous job by both fighters. Of course, it's going down to the final round, which a lot of people are talking about. Was it a 10-8? No judges scored it a 10-8. That's, it's tough. It's a tough situation for the judges to be in. I believe it was a 10-8. I do. I actually, it was close. Anyway, look at it, was close. And you could give the fight to either fighter, in my opinion. I really believe that if you really break it down, you can give it to Whittaker. If you really break it down, you can give it to Romero. The thing that people are starting to say, hey, is the reason why he didn't get the victory is because he missed weight and were judges a little bit harder on him. The fact that he wasn't going to be the champion if he won, was that on the judge's mind? So a lot of that stuff is kind of having a conversation. And to be honest with you, I didn't bet this fight. So to me, I wanted to see Whittaker win because I just didn't want that this would hold up the division. If now Romero wins a fight where he can't win the title, they're going to run that back. And now, what if, then Whittaker wins the next? It just starts to really hold up that division. It's horrible. Again, you got to deal with the weight situation where Romero isn't able to make weight. Now Dana White is already saying that they're pushing him up a division. They're saying that, which is going to be, there's some great fights up there for him in that next division. But I'm glad Whittaker got it just because of the fact that I want this to just move forward. I did not want to hold up this division. There's so many other great fights, even for Whittaker to see in the future. I just would rather see that than see kind of a cluster of a mess happening when you're trying to get Romero back into the conversation because he won a fight, but he didn't make weight. So that's my 2 cents on that, but an awesome fight, and I actually rewatched it again just because it was such a tremendous fight, but I'm really excited to see where Whittaker goes. And Covington, he did his thing, and he really put on a great fight. I mean, it was a tight fight, but he really, he goes out there and his aggressive style mixing with his wrestling, he really put together a nice performance. I thought it was actually a better performance than I thought he would put together. I did, in our Let's Chat video, I did pick Whittaker. I did pick Covington in the hero parlay. I did believe that they would win. I just didn't really believe that Covington would piece it together this well. It was definitely close, but there was, some adversity in there that he had to deal with, and he was able to overcome it. And that's something where a guy, when you talk a lot, when you really, really are bad-mouthing everybody and you are just talking up yourself so much, and when you're in a tough spot, does that get in your head? Do you say, you know what? I'm gonna look like a fool if I don't win this fight. And he really just dug deep, got the victory, continued to get these takedowns in such a high rate. I mean, I just give him a lot of respect. I really believe that Covington versus Woodley, that fight is going to be a tremendous fight. At this point, I would, without diving into it, I would go with Woodley. If I was to pick a winner in that fight right now, Covington versus Woodley, I would take Woodley. I think Woodley's power, I think Woodley's wrestling, I think Woodley's going to fight a lot differently compared to Dos Anjos, who on the ground has struggled. So it would be interesting to see Woodley, a guy who is very well-rounded, who can drop bombs, yet take you to the ground and wrestle, and yet Covington, not as skilled standing, would have to, and Woodley has tremendous takedown defense. So it really would start to push me towards Woodley, obviously on the odds, but I bet the odds, I would say the odds would be very close. Very close. After this victory for Covington and having Woodley being out for a while, I believe that it would be pretty close in odds, but I, at this point, would think Woodley would be where I'd place my money. The other fight I want to talk about was the Holly Holm versus Megan Anderson. And this fight was another fight which actually I believed that Anderson would win. Did not have a straight bet on her. Always like to give that disclaimer. But I thought she would win. I really thought, Anderson would put together a nice stand-up, out-fight her standing, and she'd have some nice takedown defense if that was even a situation. But the fact that Holly Holm completely reinvented herself, and instead of standing, bull rushing her, taking her to the ground, able to keep her down there, and you saw Anderson, completely shocked. I mean, she was so thrown off by this strategy and by the whole game plan that Holly Holm was coming in there with, that it just shocked everybody. Even you heard the corner say, okay, this is what she's going to, okay, now we know her plan, this is what she's going to do. And I think they said that after the first round, but they had no answers for it. They were not prepared for it, and it was such a huge fight for for Holly Holm. Just in her career, I'm not one that really wants to see Cyborg versus Holly Holm. I don't really want to see that fight at all, but it's a big win for her in general. She needed this victory. She was 1-4 out of her last 5. This at least gets her another victory. She has fought the who's who of women's MMA, so that's always going to be something that she can lean on and say, listen, I'm fighting the best female combat athletes in the world, one after the other, after the other, after the other. I mean, she continues to do that. So for her to get this victory, it's a big victory for her. If Anderson did win that fight, Cyborg would completely obliterate Megan Anderson without a doubt. So, you know, it will be interesting to see who Holly Holm does fight next. And the last fight I want to go over briefly is the CM Punk versus Mike Jackson. This fight, I mean, it was like a joke. I mean, it was worse than what I thought it would be. I thought it would be a little bit more competitive on CM Punk's side. I really thought that, you know what, maybe he's going to put something together here. And he was lost. He looked lost standing. He looked lost in the clinch. He looked lost on the ground. And it makes me think, what the hell is this guy doing in the UFC? What is he doing in the UFC? I understand it's not a money thing because I know he's very well off. All of his WWE, accolades and all the money he's made over there. So I understand that but I mean, he looked as amateur as you get in a UFC fight. I thought it was terrible. I'm not really sure what Mike Jackson was doing, where he was showboating. A lot of stuff has come out now, obviously, with Dana White. Really, I guess he cut both of them and has really been slamming Jackson for his performance. If Mike Jackson wanted to really put a stamp on his name, if he had just swept through CM Punk and just really put him down, really demolished him, he would really be able to kind of grab some of that hype and, wow, he's the guy that beat up CM Punk. Although it's nothing impressive, it would just give him something to hang his hat on and say, I'm the guy that beat him and retired CM Punk from the UFC. Something of that nature, and they could kind of spin that into a little bit of hype. And the way he did it was uneventful. It was not much going on. I mean, and how wild and sloppy CM Punk was, it was just terrible of a fight. It was really bad, but that's the way that they really wanted to push that to sell some pay-per-views. I'm sure they did because of the wrestling fans that wanted to see CM Punk fight. So they get their money, of course, right? So there you have it, guys. We have our 2 bets. We're 2-0 on this card. Again, the best bet, we were 19. We are 19-8 plus 16.37 units for the year. Hit Tai Tuivasa. Hit the parlay with both of them together. Overall, a great night. Profited on everything. Really happy that was the way that I was able to put this card together. We will get into the next card next week, and we will dive into that card all together. So let me know what you guys have. What did you bet? What did you guys think about CM Punk? What did you guys think about the main event? Who did you have winning the main event? Did you agree with the card? And what do you think about Covington versus Woodley? That's going to be an exciting one and a ton of trash talking. So if you have not yet done so, subscribe to the channel. And this is Mr. UFC Vegas, Fight Club TV.